In the previous lectures, we saw how legal material from the ancient Near East illuminates biblical law. But the same materials are also helpful for the interpretation of biblical narrative. The rest of this lesson will be dedicated to this aspect of comparative study. We shall explore one case study that exemplifies how ancient Near Eastern law may shed light on biblical narrative, especially when it describes social norms and customs. Our case study will be the relationship between Abraham, Hagar, and Sarah as depicted in Genesis 16.
Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, and she had a female Egyptian servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, "Behold, now the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go in to be with my servant. It may be that I shall have obtained children by her." And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her servant, and gave her to Abram her husband as a wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress. And Sarai said to Abram, "The wrong done me is your fault. I put my maid in your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked on me with contempt. May the Lord judge between me and you." And Abram said to Sarai, "Behold, your servant is in your hands. Deal with her as you think right." Then Sarai treated her harshly, and she ran away from her.
With the discovery of the Code of Hammurabi, scholars noticed the affinities between this story and Hammurabi Law number 146.
If a man marries a Naditu, and she gives a slave woman to her husband, and she then bears children, after which that slave woman aspires to equal status with her mistress, because she bore children, her mistress shall not sell her. She shall place upon her the slave hairlock, and she shall reckon her with the slave women.
This law deals with a case very similar to that of Sarah and Hagar. A woman gives her husband her slave girl to bear him children. The girl's status within the household is changed. The wife treats her badly. The Mesopotamian law details the wife's rights and obligations. She cannot sell the slave girl because she has already provided the husband with offspring. She can, however, highlight her inferior status via accepted social conventions. She may cut her hair in slave style and reckon her with the slave women. When the affinities between this law and the story of Sarah and Hagar were first noted, some scholars suggested that it may supply Sarah with a justification for her behavior. Her harsh treatment of Hagar, as described in the biblical text, may allude to a deliberate form of humiliation designed to put Hagar in her proper place. Sarah seems to act here in accordance with the same custom reflected in the Code of Hammurabi. This application of the Mesopotamian law to the biblical story has a problematic aspect, however. The Hammurabi law does not refer to any woman, but specifically to a Naditu. Naditus were priestesses who lived outside the patriarchal family. You will find more information about them in the appendix to this lecture. For our purposes, however, if we want to contextualize the story of Sarah and Hagar in relation to established practice in the ancient Near East, we must turn to laws that apply to ordinary women. We shall discuss these in the following lectures.